And yeah, we are discussing findings and findings or outcomes and discussion in research. So, Mr. Jerry, okay, thank you very much. Now, because of the level of our participants or target audience, one of the area we are measuring on is the quantitative research. Since as undergraduate students, you may not be necessarily bothered with qualitative research at this point. So our discussion is going to focus mainly on quantitative research findings, outcomes, and discussion. Thank you very much. So please, let's proceed to the outline. Okay, in our outline, some of the key points we want to look at is findings or outcomes and discussion. What is it? Then what is an empirical research paper? Then what is research finding? Discussion of research findings and outcome. Then we want to compare the difference between findings and discussion. Then we have two examples I we just want to consider briefly, then the conclusion, then questions and answers, if there are any. So we want to look into what we mean by findings and discussion. Please, these words are used interchangeably. Findings, outcomes, or results. So please, when I use them interchangeably, kindly understand that it means the same thing. So findings and discussion are essential components of a research project, thesis, or dissertation. Depends how it's called in your own institution or the level of your studies. They communicate the results of your study and interpret their significance in relation to your research objectives or questions. So, findings and discussion are product of empirical research. They are product of empirical research. It's a systematic work. Well, I have them, but please, I also take note that we start behind our schedule. I may not lay more emphasis on what is empirical research, but let's proceed, sir. What is an empirical research? And what is the goal of empirical research? Hello, sir.
Yeah, I will, sir.
Okay. So when we say empirical research, it refers to a scientific document that reports or that tell us findings from studies based on observed and measured phenomena. And the goal is to add knowledge through systematic data collection, analysis, and conclusions. Let's continue, sir. Please continue, sir.
Hello.
So I want to talk about key features of empirical research papers. Systematic approach. It follows a laid down scientific ways so as to ensure validity and reliability. And it is focused on data, or is data driven, and it is evidence based. And you discover that your project, as it's usually called in undergraduate, it is in a well-structured format. It is organized for coherence and readability. Of course, I know that in some schools, there are little variations in the organizations. However, no matter your own format, approved format of your institution, it is usually well organized so as to ensure coherence and readability. Thank you, Mr. Jerry. So please, let's move to our major slides. Let's continue. Okay. Typical structure of an empirical research paper. Now, I'm not going to say much about this slide still, but this is just as a recap. In fact, I couldn't even have time to thank our host. Maybe at the end of my presentation, I will do that because it's a great privilege for me. As a result of this, I've learned a lot, even as a teacher. You remember, no matter your institutions, these are the major features of empirical research. You have your cover page, your inner title page, acknowledgement, abstract, introduction, literature review, methodology. Then you go to where we are discussing today. Results or findings and discussion. Then you continue to conclusion, references, and appendices. So, of course, the aim of our presentation or our focus this evening is the outcome and discussion of our research work. So, I'm going to move to what is research findings directly, which is our focus today. So, what is research findings? Just findings, of course, is an English word. Findings section presents the raw results of your research. It answers the research questions or addresses the objectives set out at the beginning of the study. Please take note of this. I think this is a major point about research findings. So this section is descriptive and focuses on presenting data clearly and systematically. And the researcher usually employ tables, graphs, charts, inferential statistics, so as to present his or her findings in a systematic way. Please remember that we are talking about that our major focus will be on quantitative research data and not qualitative. So that's what we're talking about, charts, tables, and graphs. So I want to talk about purpose and key considerations in research finding. Why do we talk about research finding? What are the key considerations in research findings? The purpose is to ensure that your research questions is answered in a systematic and an unbiased way. It enables you to answer your research questions systematically without bias. And what are the key considerations when you want to do your findings? You organize your findings clearly, avoid interpretation. So in findings, we don't talk about, as a researcher, you don't need any explanation. You are going to present your findings as raw as you get them from the field via the use of tables and charts for clarity. Hello? Please, are we together?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you very much. So, these are the key considerations in the research findings. Please, let's continue. So, what are the structures? Of course, you were taught that in every of your section, you will usually give little introduction. Of course, more importantly, I want you to know that the major aspect of your work begins from chapter 1, which is the introduction, chapter 2, the literature review, and then the chapter 3, the methodology. Now, if this is not well carried out, even your analysis will be messed up. And if that happens, there will not be anything to present as findings and then discussion. So I was part of the class when one of our lecturers took us in literature review. He did justice to the subject matter. So restate research questions from the beginning. Then you present your findings in a logical way, using themes, objectives, etc. Now you summarize your key findings. For example, I give an example here because in my own area, there's usually incidents of snake bites. So as a researcher, you want to study to find out the prevalence of snake bites in Lokoja, Kogi State. So for example, it says from September 2020 to September 2025, 212 snake bites were reported in Lokoja, Kogi State. Now, this is lifted raw from my data. I did not add any explanation. There is no addition or subtraction. This is what I obtained from the field that is presented in my finding section. So, how do you present your findings? Of course, remember that we're talking about quantitative research. The results of quantitative research are typically presented in a clear and concise manner by the use of combination of text, figures, graphs, and tables. Here are some common ways to present the results. The text, number one, summary of findings. You give a summary of your findings and you highlight the key results and the trends. Then description of statistics, a descriptive of the statistical analysis performed. Last week, Mr. Bodji did justice to analysis. So including the test used, the sample size, and the significance level. As I said earlier, the research finding and discussion is like a roof of a building. It means it's not the foundation. The roof, the strength of the roof depends on the foundation and the building itself. So the strength of your research finding and discussion is dependent on your previous chapters, how well they were handled. Now, there are things to watch out. Very few, I brought them out for us to consider. You must be very, very objective in your usage of tone. Sorry, I may not be able to remember the name of our lecturers now, but I think somebody from
Lucky from Syria.
Oh, thank you very much. Thank you, Smart. Did justice to this topic very well. The tone you use, not to be judgmental and not exaggerate your results. You should be focused in presenting the raw data, the result, the outcome of your findings. So use clear headings or topic sentences. Then include negative findings for transparency, especially in our undergraduate days. When we are carrying out our project, it's like we have in our head what our outcome should be. So as a research, it ought not to be so. I think our hosts have made mention of that before, how that the Western world are so careful when it comes to data from Africa as a result of not being transparent with data collection and reporting. So please, as young researchers, it ought not to be so with us. So you maintain an objective tone, use a clear tone, then even if your result negates your expectation, you're expected to report it. Then things to avoid. You don't, at at the point of presentation of findings, interpretation is not required. I think I've said that earlier before. Then don't present raw data without summarization. That is why you have to use bar chart, mean, media, mode, and what have you to present your data in summary. Then refrain from using vague terms or generalization or jargons. Don't, because your research findings, after conducting the research, I think the next phase is dissemination, which is not even only your professionals or your colleagues that will handle it. It goes to the wider population. For that, you are cautioned to refrain from using vague terms or generalization. So at that point, I want to go into discussion of research findings outcome. The discussion section, now, this is where interpretation of your findings and explanation of the significance in the context of your study is required. This is, of course, remember earlier on I told us that you will have to depend on your previous chapters. Very, very key. Your previous chapters is key. Because at this point, you are going to analyze your findings back to the research questions, your hypotheses or objectives, and position them within the framework of existing literature or the theory you use. Take, for instance, when you are conducting a research, in your literature review, you are going to sample so many current literature related to your topics. And you are going to, and it is important that you have wide range of search empirical literatures that aligns or that is in line with your research topic. Then you discuss your finding, lifting them, comparing and contrast. And that is why in the earlier, one of the slides, you said, even when your outcome or your finding goes contrary to expectation, you are required as a researcher to be transparent, to report it as obtained without modulating or modifying any findings to suit your expectation. Okay, so in discussion, remember we said earlier that in findings, presentation of findings, interpretation is not required. You are expected to present your result as raw as obtained from the field. Now, when you come to interpretation, you are going to explain the meaning of the finding. Sorry, when you come to discussion, interpretation is required because you are expected to explain the meaning of the findings. Take, for instance, as a researcher, you want to study the correlation, the relationship between parenting styles and the real sexual behavior of youth. This is your research goal or objectives. So you are going to compare. Is it positively correlated or negatively? Now you are going to see some research, some empirical journals that will tell you that it is positively correlated. That is, there is a positive relationship that exists between parenting styles and risky sexual behavior among youth. Whereas some study will tell you there is no correlation, there is no any positive association. Some findings will also, some work will also tell you that there is a weak relationship between the two. That is parenting styles and risky sexual behavior. So at this point, because of this difference in opinions or findings, this brings us to comparison. So you have to compare your findings with previous research. Is your finding consistent? Is it contradictory? Or what? Is there any findings new, striking about your own research findings? And you need rich knowledge of your literature review at this point, because this is what is going to help you to buttress more on your discussion. Without a good literature review, discussion is practically impossible. Hello. Hello, sir. Please, are we together? Hello.
Yes.
Okay.
We are with you, sir.
Okay, thank you very much. So please, can we continue? Okay, so we are talking about key elements of the discussion. The next one is the implications. If, for instance, the example we gave, the parenting style and risky sexual behavior, if there is positive correlation between the two, what are the practical, theoretical, or policy-related implications of these findings? You are going to let us know in your discussion. And also in the discussion too, you are going to tell us what are the limitations of your studies. Now, let me say this in discussion. It is good to note that your study, your findings may not always agree with others in most cases. And the reasons are so glaring. Take, for instance, the research setting, the cultural background of the people, even the educational status of the people. They may not, if it's not in the same research setting, the outcome of their findings may always have little or even more variations. So if there are limitations in your conduct of research work, take for instance, time constraint. Maybe you want to study the impact of job satisfaction on mental health of university teaching staff in Nigeria. And we're having, let's say we're having 100 both public and private universities. But because of time and resources constraint, you sampled only, let's say, two universities from 3 states. So you now discover that your coverage may not be sufficient enough to generalize your finding. So this may affect your generalization or validity of your research findings. And as a researcher, you are expected to be transparent enough to say it as it is. Then from there, you go to recommendations. You propose areas for further research or practical application based on your findings. Of course, as I said, we're having 2 case studies I want to look at as we proceed. So what are the areas? Take, for instance, if you discuss that there is positive correlation or relationship between risky sexual behavior among youth and the parental style, It means you want to study. You are going to propose or make a recommendation for further study on the way parenting styles of parents. Okay, so please want to look at, from what I've said in summary, findings, what are the similarities or the relationship between findings and discussion. In the area of aspect of purpose, findings present results, whereas discussion interpret and analyze results. This is a summary of what I've been saying all this while. Then content. In findings, you make use of data, statistics. If it is qualitative research, you use observations. However, in discussion, you talk about meaning, implications, and context. Then, of course, we said about the tone earlier on. In findings, you are going to be very objective and factual. Whereas in your discussion, you are expected to be analytical and interpretative. You are going to explain the implication of your findings. That is on discussion. Thank you, sir. So tips for effective precision of findings and discussion. This is also repetitive in a way because I've said about the tone before. You must be clear and concise in your presentations and discussion. You must avoid overstating results. You don't add, you don't exaggerate. If, take for instance, in my example of snake bite in Kogi State, if in the space of 5 years, there are only less than 300 snake bites, there is no need of inflating the figures or your value so as to make it, is it more attractive or it has, no. Research, it must be objective. Address limitations also transparently. You must be sincere in your addressing of the limitations, as I said earlier. Then highlight practical applications of your finding to theory, to practice, to policy. Thank you, sir. So, at this point, hello, please, are we there?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Hello,
No, we are following you.
please.
We are following you.
If it's time for questions and answer, so I don't just continue. I want us to say something. If you want to ask any questions, and if you want to contribute anything about your discussion and finding, please let us know. At least I want to hear something from us. Do we now understand clearly what's the difference between findings and discussion? We're able to compare them in aspect of purpose, content, and tone. Hello?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Maybe I'll wait for your questions at the end. So let's go to our case study 1. You want to study the death anxiety and terminal care among nurses. Let's say it's in National Hospital, Abuja. You want to examine the relationship between death anxiety and quality of terminal care. Now, in your findings, you say, take for instance, 89% of nurses had high death anxiety. You also find another finding is that palliative care training reduced anxiety and improved attitudes of nurses to patients of terminal illness, having terminal illness. Now, imagine that assuming this is your findings. In your discussion, You have to tell us what is the implication of these findings. That is after you must have compared what is the finding of other people. Do other journals, other empirical work that you contacted in literature review, do they report any evidence of anxieties among nurses caring for terminal ill patients? And then they also report that palliative care has any positive effect on anxiety and improve attitudes of nursing towards terminal care. So in your implications for practice, you are going to tell us that if it is actually your finding that palliative care training reduce anxiety and improve attitudes, you will tell us that there's need to provide emotional support through structured debriefing, then integrate palliative care training into nursing curricula. So these are one or two implications of these findings if this is the outcome of your research. I'm going to case study 2. Okay. Okay. It's okay. Sorry, I'm supposed to have case study 2. So please, in my case study 2, which I'm supposed to present here, sorry, I think I omitted it. You want to conduct a research on factors influencing drug regimen compliance among diabetic patients. Now, imagine that in your findings, you discover that those that are more educated comply more with their drug regimen than those that are less educated. Then you also find out that their financial strength influences their level of compliance as a result of financial constraint or cost of drugs. Now, if that's your finding, for instance, you are going to discuss the implications either for the government or even, okay, let's say the government to reduce diabetic drugs. Take, for instance, like what the government have done in the area of antiretroviral drugs. Today it has been, I think it is free, not subsidized, it's free. They give, once you are registered in public hospitals, you have access to your drug on monthly basis. So you're going to say, in order to ensure compliance with drug regimen among diabetic patients, there is need to subsidize the cost of their drug. And then since you've also found out that those that are well educated are more, they comply more, it means there is need to integrate effective health education for the patients so as to increase their knowledge base on the disease condition. So in conclusion, understanding the structure of empirical research papers equips students to communicate findings effectively. So if a student masters the results of their research work very well, the discussion, the conclusions sections will strengthen their skills for evidence-based practice. So, like I said earlier, you must go ensure that your chapter 1 from the beginning, it is systematically followed, because this is what will determine your ability to communicate well. So, Mr. Thank you very much. Please, at this point, I want to stop here for questions and answers and probably contributions. Our students, I know some of you are almost winding up your project work already, so you have learned a lot. So if you have anything you want to share with us, please, kindly feel free. This is the time for you. Thank you.
Good afternoon, sir. Please, I have a question.
Thank you very much. You're welcome. Please, what is your name?
My name is Chika John.
Okay, Chika John, you're welcome.
Yes, sir. So, sir, thank you very much for the lecture. Though I joined late due to network issue, but I followed and I was able to understand everything. So, sir, my question is, when you are trying to present your findings, maybe from your results that you got, let's say, for example, let me use the compliance of diabetic. Maybe you found out that 60% of the people could not comply to diabetes due to financial constraints. Then in your empirical review, you could not find one that could relate positively to it. Would you still include it in your discussion?
Okay. Please, I don't want to answer this question direct. Is there anybody there to answer the question? I want us to interact at this point. My presentation, I think, is very brief. So please let me listen to us, the students. If you find out that one of the factors militating against the patients complying with their drug regimen, diabetic patients, is finance, and in a literal review, there are no any research findings that mention that as their finding. Chika is asking, are you going to still add it in your discussion or you omit it? Anybody? Hello? Okay, hello. Okay, let me continue. Yes. The answer is yes, you have to include it. If you remember, I says, what is novel about your finding? You are not in research. In as much as you are expected, it's expected to show similarities with the findings of others. But you are not also expected to reinvent the wheel. There should be findings that is new, novelty about your work. Take, for instance, Nigeria is among the developing nations of the world. And you know the level of poverty in Nigeria today, that Nigeria has been described as the capital headquarter of poverty in the world. So it means if the same research work is done in the United States of America, you don't expect them to mention probably finance as constraint. So because of your research setting is different, there is bound to be different in your finding. So you will add. Hello?
Yes, sir. Thank you. I understand. Thank you, sir.
You understand?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening.
Sir, I'm having a question.
Okay. Please tell us your name and go.
Okay, Abdulrazak Latifat, sir.
Pardon?
Abdulrazak Latifat.
Okay, Abrazak, you are welcome.
Thank you for the wonderful lecture being delivered.
You're welcome.
So, sir, my own question is that based on what we have seen, you said that our discussion is using the studies we have reviewed in our empirical review from the chapter 2.
Chapter 2, yes.
So my question is that can we actually review another study? No, not review another study. Can we use another study, include another study? Let's say that we use up to 5 studies in our chapter 2 for each objective. So maybe after checking online and you see a similar article, can we include it in the chapter 5? Apart from the one just including.
Okay, Abrazak, do you mean without adding it in chapter 2?
Yes, like we did not use the literature in chapter 2, but we wanted to use it in chapter 5. Like we have reviewed the one, we have discussed the one we used in chapter 2. So now, after you check online, then you see another similar article. Can we probably
No,
include it in
no,
our chapter 5?
no. That is not accepted at all. You see,
Okay.
some supervisors are very meticulous. In fact, some will sit down like your in-text referencing. They will compare.
Okay.
If you even cited it in the work, because I want to use the one common one that students usually cut corner is in referencing. They will do few in-text referencing, but when they come to the citation, do you know what they do? They will have so many references. I mean,
Okay.
supervisors will take it and go inside and they can't find it. You see them, they will circle your work. And imagine that you have done your final binding. If you are not financially buoyant, you go back and redo it all over. So, and the challenge again, even if you want to add it to chapter 2, of course, every chapter is always approved before you proceed. If I'm not mistaken, I don't know about your institution.
Yes.
So expect not to consult your supervisor again. But if you do not make use of any work, if you do not consult any work in your literature review, you are not expected to add it when it comes to discussion.
Okay, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
Hello, Mr. Silas. I think what she's asking is this,
Okay.
that in literature review,
Yes, ma'am.
if she has actually discussed, say for example, she's talking about diabetes and she has consulted different articles in the chapter 2 to give the narrative of her literature in details. But when it comes to, after she has discovered her finding, when it comes to discussion session, under comparison, I guess that's where is usually applicable. And she's trying to compare findings from other study in relation to her own. Must the finding from other studies she's trying to talk about, must it be one of those same articles she has used to do a literature review that she must use for the comparison? That's what she's trying to ask.
I got it, ma'am. And I'm saying that, except I don't know if there's although this is subject to some institutions and even supervisors.
Exactly,
But
that's what I'm doing.
You are not allowed to go outside what you have in your literature review. That is where you base your discussion, ma'am.
Okay.
Hello. So, but of course, please. If
No,
you
that's
have
that's where I'm going. Over here, the school of thought is that as long as you are discussing like what is relevant, because the truth of the matter is that in your chapter 2, you cannot exhaustively use all the literatures around the world, because your literature review is tailored towards a particular direction. You want to talk about your theoretical framework, your empirical, so, but when it comes to discussion, your findings, there are other research that will actually match exactly what you're looking for when it comes to comparison. And their findings have been well documented and critically appraised. I think it's applicable. It depends. I don't know what is obtainable in some schools in Nigeria, but over here, you're allowed to use them. And as long as you present the right statistics and you discuss them practical, how it correlates to your own study. Does my 85% in Nigeria, I got that 85% of diabetics patients are taking Zobo. But another study in Lagos revealed that 65% are taking Zobo, and those 55% are women. This does not agree with what I got in Lokoja. So, you can actually that's actually what's it's obtainable around here. But like you said, supervisors, institutional preference, all this may actually have implication on some of the things we're talking about. But we have because I know that we are going to have some time here, we've sent an article to Jerry that I wanted us to project. This person won ₦1 million in September for the project she did. And I wanted that after this particular class, we'll be able to project what the chapter 4 and the chapter 5 looks like, so that everybody can see, because every lecturer that came from all the different schools agreed that this person was thorough. In fact, as a matter of fact, let me tell, for those of you that you think you are smart, this person's work at the theoretical and the marking level, somehow there were some points that were missed by the data entry people. So this person was not even in number 1. I think the person was in maybe number 7 or something. The person was not in number 1 to 5. But at the point of defense, when the students were meant to defend their projects, by the time this person stood and the person was talking, everybody confounded. We had to go back to data and see, how is this person's name not in 1 to 5? And the professor that is heading the team said, we need to remark this thing. Something is wrong somewhere. And we started afresh for everything. Everybody. Just because of that person. And immediately we did that, we just saw that actually it was data entry that had problem. She ought to have been in the first 4. And that was how we had to remark for everybody. Just because of that presentation, and she was able to defend that part very well. So that's is Mr. Bonji, are you still there? I think Dr. Luasheitu is there. So very good for all of us today. All our lecturers will actually have something to say. Is Mr. Bonji, are you there? So that we can get institutional perspective. Mr. Bonji, Mr. I saw Dr. Luashe earlier on.
Yes, she's still
here. And let me see. Mr. Bonji. I don't see Bonji. Bonji was there before.
Luashe is here, ma.
Okay. Okay.
Good evening.
Good evening, ma.
Okay. Hello.
Mr. Samuel.
Okay. Oh.
Hello.
Hello.
Good evening.
Mr. Atara. Okay. Good evening, ma.
Network.
We're having a debate here, so we want institutional perspective.
All right. Good evening, everyone.
Good evening. So the question is this: if the students in literature review, I did not include a particular article in my literature review in chapter 2, but in chapter 5, when I was doing my discussion and my presentation, I decided to use this new article for some of my comparison in discussing my results. Is it acceptable? So we're trying to get some, well, Mr. Silas said that ideally you should use part of the articles you use for your literature review. And I said some school of thought, recent school of thought, says you can use a different article as long as the article is related to the topic and you have reported the correct findings to compare with your results. So we're saying that, okay, lecturers and institutions, maybe they may differ in this approach. So we wanted to get different institution perspective and different lecturers' perspective. And funny enough, I was about to say that next week, we should invite some lecturers to tell these students that, look, if I'm marking your projects or I'm interviewing you as an external supervisor, these are the things I will look at so that they get different perspective and they can align. But thank God we are having this discussion. So that's why we are inviting some of the lecturers to give us their opinion on this, ma.
Hello?
Hello, ma.
So,
Dr. Luachi.
Okay, I thought somebody is saying hello. All right. Okay, thank you, ma. That's a very tricky one. I was thinking for our side, what we actually teach is the norm. And that's why we encourage students to make their chapter 2 robust. Robust in the sense that writing with your objectives, you should get as many literatures as possible. Underline as many as possible. And that's why with your literature matrix, you are likely to have more. So by the time you are writing, what we preach, permit my choice of word, is you. That's why you now relate it to your chapter 2. According to Oluwaseyi 2024, so and so, based on what I have said, you now compare and contrast with your findings on the particular, issue or problem at hand. But just like you rightly said, there may be addition whereby you see, and this thing is related to my work. But as I want to believe that as much as possible, it should be very minimal. Very minimal. So that's my contribution on that. But as much as possible, you go back and forth on your chapter 2. That's why you don't rush, and you make sure that your chapter 2 is robust enough with adequate information so that you are going there. Because that's what I'm always telling students. This thing is scanty. It's scanty because you will have nothing to discuss in your chapter when you are discussing. It's scanty because you have nothing to fall back on. So it's not as if at the end of the day, you now go and recruit, new information that you now start comparing and contrasting. You have not, acknowledged them or recognized them in your earlier work. So if it's going to fly at all, for us, what we preach in my school of thought and in my school is that everything should be your chapter 2. But if you have at all, it should be minimal. Thank you, ma.
Thank you very much, ma. Thank you very much, ma. Is Mr. Tai here? Mr. Tai, is he here?
Yes,
Jerry,
he's here, ma.
I thought I heard his voice.
Yes, ma, he's here, ma.
Okay, Mr. Tai. I can't see him on the page, but I'm sure I heard his voice.
Okay, he's here. I don't know why.
Okay, 1 second. Let me give him a ring because I know Mr. Bunji was here too before. Okay. I don't know. I'm not. I don't know what's wrong with my interface, but hello, sir. We're expecting your contribution, sir. We're expecting your contribution on the platform. Okay. I think, Mr. Thais is saying it's the network. You should be able to come on now. Where is it? Which mentor is also here, Jerry? Can you check? I'm not, I can't, my this thing is not seeing the names. Okay. Jerry, use your phone to call Mr. Bunji. He has been here all along. What went wrong? Because he's been chatting with me, so I know he was here. Hello, Mr. Tai. Is he okay now? Is your network restored? Mr. Tai is having network issues. He's actually trying to contribute.
That I went to the village. The village with the family.
So your network is God bless Nigeria. God bless Nigeria. Hello.
Yeah, good evening, ma'am.
Mr. Bunji, where did you disappear to? I bet you're in the village too.
Good evening, ma.
So we're having in fact, this is supposed to be Mr. Bunji's debate, really, because in December, myself and Mr. Bunji, we did not, our Christmas was not very palatable because Mr. Bunji really stressed my life. We had to do a work together on a systematic review, and it was really, really tough. But we sha did it, sha. So, and the bulk of the issue was just basically on discussion and analysis. And it wasn't funny, but we did it. We did it because of the timeline. So, we're going to, so Mr. Bunji, the question is this. Are you listening, sir?
Good evening, ma'am.
Hello, Mr. Bunji, can you hear me?
I can hear you. Is Mr. Atai?
Okay, oh, Mr. Tai is on now.
Yes.
Okay, good. Did you hear the question, sir?
Yes, I heard the question, ma.
Oh, okay. So we need your contribution.
The truth of the matter is, you can review as much as you want. Like, even what even will lead to your research topic at the first place is your systematic review. When you do literature matrix and you review a lot of articles, so those articles you review, from there you will be able to identify a gap. So, and as you are going on, as you're carrying out your research, you continue with review. That is what is more like integrative review. So the subsequent articles that are coming up that are useful to your work is allowed for you to use it in discussion. Though most time we tend not to take it that serious, maybe for the undergraduates.
Oh, his network is really bad.
I believe that's why.
Your network is okay. Now I agree that you're actually in the village. Your network is very bad. Hello, Mr. Atai. The network is really very bad. We didn't hear the letter end of
that. But when you in the postgraduate arena,
it is well. Okay, but I think discussion is tending towards what Dr. Luashe also said, that make your review very robust, so that when it comes to your discussion, you actually be able to refer to as many of them as possible, and so that you'll be able to have good discussions, really. And if you have enough articles during your literature review, you shouldn't have any problem referring to some of them when you are talking, really. And like Dr. Luashe said, that even if you want to impute new articles, make sure that it is minimal as possible. Did we learn anything from what has been said so far?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so if you have any more questions, please let's ask Mr. Silas before. Do we have any more questions before we go into the documents that need to be shared? Do we have any more? All right. So you see, that's why sometimes I tell you also that your mentors in the group, you ask them as much as you can. Try and learn from them. If I were to ask some of us now that how many of us have actually interacted with other people in our class, from the class 1 to the class 12, if you've met other people, I would like to know. Let me even ask that question now. How many of us have really met other people from another school in the same class in these 8 weeks? Anyone?
Yes, ma.
Okay, who is talking?
Yes, ma'am.
Who is that?
Sheung.
Oh, okay, class 12.
Yes,
I
ma.
know class 12,
Yes, ma'am.
up class 12. So who did you meet? Who did you talk to?
I spoke to Busola. She's from OOU. I don't know if she's here right now.
That's great. That's great. Yeah, who else?
And Elizabeth too.
That's good. Who else? You see,
I talked to Bisola from class 12.
who is that? Who's
Sola.
talking?
Madis Chika.
Oh, of course, Chika, I know you will. Well, that's very good. All these people are in group 12, fool. For your information, all of you. So, Temlolua said nobody is active in my group. Are you sure? You are not the only one submitting in that group. You know I'm looking at everybody. So you should try and look for somebody that is regular in submission, just like you. But I know you have been very active in your group anyway, Temilolua. So the thing is, you can see the direction and the perspective that the other lecturers were able to contribute to this discussion now. And Mr. Silas said something very profound. He said he himself, he has learned from this 8 weeks mentoring. And the same thing applies to all of us as mentors. This program, as in one way or the other, we have learned. Personally, I have gained a lot of experience, and I have learned, and I've also learned how to manage like a training, because this is the first time, we told you that this is the first of its kind in Nigeria for nurses, for us to have an online program training for 8 weeks. So we've had a lot to learn too. So the earlier you network, the better for you, because these are the same people also that will give you valid information that will step you forward. So assuming that this lecture we want to present here now, this person, this particular student, she has friends in Elizade, she has friends in Jabu and all Port Harcourt. As she's writing this her project, and she has this good supervisor, because what Professor Erinloye asked her was that immediately she got the prize. What Professor Erinloye asked her was, who is your supervisor? Which school? Of course, you are from University of Ibadan, but who is your supervisor? That was the first thing everybody asked. That who supervised this project? It is obvious that somebody that is knowledgeable, that cares about students, has supervised this person. So everybody asked, who is your supervisor? So imagine if this person has a friend in another school and you are having issues with your own. Would you have borrowed from this knowledge that she has? Yes, you would have. That is the power of networking. That is the power of networking. Currently, as I'm talking to you, I have a friend that is in Manchester, and she's trying to switch from something, and she's doing mental health program, and she's about to submit her project. Instantly, she called me yesterday and she said, just look at what I'm doing, because I know that probably this is your field. And immediately I looked at it. I just pointed out 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 things. And I said, okay, why not you subscribe to this app, you should be able to help you in this and that. That is the power of networking. So you need to network with the people on your platform. Simple as ABC. Mr. Silas, do you want to say anything else, sir?
Well, I won't say anything much again. I think all of us have learned already. So it means even within Nigeria, the requirements may differ depending on even the supervisor preference at times. So thank you so much, ma'am, for this opportunity. What you are doing is very wonderful. Thank you, ma'am.
We really thank you, sir. We really appreciate you, sir.
Yes,
And
ma'am.
that's also power of networking, because myself and Mr. Silas, we haven't met face to face,
Yes, ma'am.
but we just talk online. And it's a friend that introduced Mr. Silas to me. And he supports youths very well, especially young nurses, in any endeavor they want to do. So he's a youth advocate. And for those of you that you are in his group, unfortunately, he's readily available. If you have not capitalized on that, I'm sorry, you have just missed. You have just missed. So it's very, very important that we make use of every opportunity that is available to us. So quickly, we're going to scan through the work, okay? And we'll quickly look at it. So okay, so Jerry, this is the work, right? So from what Mr. Salas has told us now, you are going to see all the evidence on this work. You see how this person was able to go about. He said, this chapter deals with the analysis of collected data and presentation of results using percentage. So based on what Mr. Bonji told us, you see, she just went she gave a summary of what is in that chapter. Are we looking at it?
Yes,
And
ma'am.
from what Mr. Silas presented now, he also said, what did you use? Or what are you planning to use and why? So this person said, this chapter deals with the analysis of collected data and the presentation of results using percentages, frequencies, means, and standard deviation displayed using charts and frequency tables. Relationship between variables were determined using Pearson's chi-square with the level of significance of 0 at 0.05 to determine the statistical significance. Can we remember why she had to put that 0.05? From last week's lecture, can we remember? I'm still waiting.
Yes, ma.
Okay. So, yeah, somebody said margin of error. Don't be afraid. Just talk. Talk. Okay. Good. That's good. All right. So this section also answers all the research questions. Did you see what she put? This question also answers all the research questions. Data were entered using Excel, using Microsoft Excel version 2021, and exported to statistical package for social science, which is SPSS software version 25. So she had given the preamble, which is what Mr. Saraswati had mentioned what you are presenting, mention what you've used for your analysis, mentioned everything you have done, the preambles first, then say why. Then, now the result said a total of 190 respondents were recruited. All completed the questionnaire. Now, and you know the reason why she said all completed the questionnaire? Because at this point, if there is if all did not complete, just like Mr. Salah said, don't add, don't stop. Even if there is anything missing, say it. 90% completed questionnaire. 10 questionnaires were not properly filled, or they were kinikon. Say it there the way it is. That is why it is research. People are learning from it. There's no need to manipulate anything. In fact, some research will say that out of 400, only 195 was able to respond online. Just like in this cohort, out of 300 people that signed up, only about 100 people were enrolled for the class. But at the end of the class, only maybe 45 people completed the 8 weeks. We will report it exactly the way it is, so that people that are looking at it can see, okay, this is the reason why they gave for. In my own destiny, I'll be able to adjust if I need to replicate this research. Do we understand? Then, so that your result will not be biased, just put it the way it is. So she said 100% respondent rate, the research questions and 2 hypotheses. So me now, if I want to learn from this research, I will go back to how she said her methodology and see how did she apply a questionnaire that she was able to get 100% rate. Is it self-administered? Is it researcher administered? How did she get 100% rate? I want to know. And if I'm asking her question too, me too, I will ask that kind of question. So the research questions, then she said, the research questions and 2 hypotheses were formulated and tested. The data was analyzed using tables, charts, and percentage. The presentation of the data analysis shall be discussed under this subheading: presentation and analysis of demographic data. So she started by saying how she was going to put the analysis. She wants to present demographic data first, presentation of the research questions. Then she wants to, step by step, based on her research questions, she wants to discuss how she was able to analyze. Question 1. This is what question 1 asks. This is the findings. This is how I analyzed it, and this is what I got. So she see socio-demographic characteristics of respondents, and she went and she discussed it. Below is the social demographic characteristics of the study participants. As to those who attended the primary health care center, 1/3, 63%, and 64% attended the PHC. While so. Go to the next point, 1.2. So she was able to do all that. Then go to the next one, 4.2. Where is 4.2? Keep moving forward. Where is 4.2? So you see, and she presented the table. Then she went to the next one. Perception of family planning method among them. That's, she went to her research question. Concerning perception, below shows the respondent perception. She explained what she got. Underneath it, after that, yes, continue, Jerry. She presented the table. You can see. This was the question I asked. These are the variables. This is my standard deviation. She presented it. Yes, keep going. 4.3. Keep going. 4.3 now. Good. So you saw, she went to the next question. You see how she was able to do it detailed. Then go to discussion now, Jerry. So she picked her research questions one after the other, and she was able to analyze based on what she did. Now, the cocoa of the matter, look at what she said. This chapter provides a detailed discussion of findings from the study. The chapter begins by summarizing main findings of the study, and it goes on to discuss the implication of finding for practice. Did you see that? Findings, implication for findings, future research to policy to future research, as well as conclusion, recommendation, and suggestion. Can you see all the points that Mr. Salah just discussed coming into play here? Jerry, check. Somebody said she's locked out. That is the class over. Check WhatsApp. Somebody is chatting with you there. So can you see? She said, then she started again from the way she presented. The social demographic, she started by talking about the social demographic characteristics of the respondent, which is 5.1. And she said, family planning offers individual the opportunity to achieve their desired family size and spacing of pregnancy through a variety of methods. Both natural. Say, however, despite the availability of this method, over 200 million in developing countries did blah, blah, blah. She now went to a study. In this present study, about 1/3 attended Idi Ogungun PHC respectively, while less than 1/3 attended Songo PHC, moving to the age. Less than half of the respondents were between 20 to 29. What? Yes, next page. He said, this is consistent with comparison now. Can you see that? So she started a comparison even from our own demographic data. He said it's consistent with Akemileke et al. 2020, where the mean age of their respondent was 29. This. Did you see that? Okay. So, but look at towards the end, the last two lines of her paragraph, she said, this finding is not keeping in view with Duru, Adiban Duru, and Ogele 2022, where more than half of the respondents were employed and this and that and that. Did you see that? Yes, let's go to the next page. Now, she picked her question 1. Concerning perception of family planning methods among women of childbearing age, she said the study found that over half of the participants held positive perception of family planning, contrasting with the findings from Esomu et al. 2023, where a higher proportion of women perceive contraceptive use as essential and they were satisfied with contraceptive services received. In contrast, that means it was different from what this other person got in so place. And can you use the use of language? Contrasting. Then, if you go further, you see what you say, additionally, and you see, moreover. 1/3 strongly agreed that they felt comfortable with the contraceptive, but less than half agreed on their effectiveness and the advantage for the mother. Can you see that? Furthermore, she went. Then the next page. She explained that one. Then you see the next question also. So that's how she went on and on. Then keep moving. 5.4. Good. And 5.5. She picked her research question one after the other. So our discussion was tailored to answering all the questions and what other findings have said from different places. Keep moving. Let's go to... Keep moving, Jerry. 5.6. Okay, so now, implication. Go back. 5.6. Is it 5.6? So, okay, 5.7, sorry. So she went 5.7, sorry. So, implication of findings to nursing. Implication to nursing education. Nursing education program can integrate the study findings to their curriculum to ensure that nurses have up-to-date knowledge on family planning. Implication to nursing practice. She went to nursing education, nursing practice, nursing research. The studies shed light on the gap and the areas of further exploration. Then keep going. 5.8. Limitation of the study. Let's see what she said was a limitation. Settings. She had limitations with setting. The study was conducted in only 3 primary healthcare centers, limiting generalizability. Method. Although the method used in this study provided a snapshot. So, which, even if they didn't tell you anything, what do you think was the method that she used? Snapshot of current situation. From the assignment, which method would have given you that? Oh yeah, question time. Oh yeah, now. What would have given us that? Which method? What did she use? What design did she use? Which design will give you a snapshot of a current situation? What type of study was that?
Microsectional.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. It was a cross and she just went in, whatever is available at that time, we did it. And, so that's what she did. And she said, so she's told us about the limitation. That's why you need to know the limitations of the study you are doing. He said, they may limit ability to make causal inference and draw inference about changes over time. Future research should consider other designs such as longitudinal design and blah, 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 blah. And she went ahead to discuss the summary. Have we learned anything from this? Have we learned? I'm not hearing no
Yes,
response.
ma'am.
Ma, please, I wanted to ask a question.
Okay.
Please, like, is it that when they say something like snapshot, you know that it is cross-sectional design, or was it in the chapter 4? I don't know.
She just used another language to describe a cross-sectional design. That was just what she did. So if you know the definition of cross-sectional design, the moment you hear a snapshot of current, you should know that that's what she's talking about, if you know the definition.
Okay. Okay, thank you, ma'am.
So have we learned anything? So that's why they call it research is systematic, step by step. Just know the right thing to do. For each step, look at what other people have done, then you will get it right. Do we understand? Do we understand?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, any question, please?
Yes, ma'am.
Mr.
I have a
Silas is
question.
still here, so
I have a question, ma'am.
okay. Somebody has
Okay,
a
ma'am.
question, Mr. Silas. Okay.
I'm with you, man.
Can you hear me now?
Ask, we are hearing.
Okay, I have 2 questions. The second question came up when these methods, from the research thing I was just doing now about not using cross-sectional study design, and it was like it's limited the findings for the research. So I wanted to understand why that was. Yeah, and the first question was if because initially I thought that using our literatures, from our literature that we've got seen when we are doing our literature review in chapter 3, that we only need all those literatures in our literature review. We only need them when we are doing our findings.
They will only do what?
We
Like,
can't hear
I
you,
only
I'm not
please.
hearing your voice well.
I'm not hearing. It's network.
Okay.
Hello?
Can you hear me now, ma'am?
Okay.
Okay. So my question is that from initially I thought that the only time we're going to need our literatures that we're going to get for the literature review is when we're doing our literature review in chapter 3. That we won't be needing them for, like, we just need them to do our literature review, our empirical we just need it in our chapter 3 basically. But then from what I'm seeing from this research study, because we have to like compare the findings from another research studies that we've used in our research review with the findings in this research study. So is it that we'll need to apply that in our findings? We also need to like try to bring what other people have done, like what their findings are, and try to compare with our findings. Like assuming that I'm doing a research,
Compare with your own. Yes, now. Were you not in class when they were asking the question earlier on? Somebody has asked this.
No, I was in class. I had a question, but I think what the person was asking was about comparing. But what I'm saying is that I
Yeah.
saw that she tries to compare every from findings from the previous literature that she used that she saw
Yeah.
while she was doing a video. So is it a must? Because I've checked some other study designs studies, right, and I've not really seen like comparison like that. And also I
Good.
want to
Now,
know
your
if
lecturers from different schools, just hold on, let me cut you short because there's another presenter that is online that's going to talk to you now. But what we're saying, let me answer that particular question quickly first. And that's what Mr. Silas said too, that make sure that your literature review is robust and that when you are doing your discussion, pick from those articles that you use in your literature review and use them also in comparison in your chapter 5. That's what you should do. Then Dr. Luashe, because from my school of thoughts and from what Dr. Luashe also said, that even if you are bringing other articles that are outside that scope, make sure that they are minimal. Do you understand?
Okay,
So
ma'am.
because when you look at other studies and publication, that is what you will see really. So if you are reading online publications, you will see that basically that this particular article is not in the person's literature review now, but I'm saying it, yes, but they are saying for academic purpose for Nigeria, make sure they are minimal.
Okay, ma'am.
So the second
Okay, ma'am.
question now.
The second question, because I don't have a full overview of the research topic for this present research that we are going through and trying to review together.
We are reviewing.
I wanted to, because from the method there is something about
Jerry, project the topic.
The snapshots not using cross-sectional study was not efficient for the study. So I wanted to because I'm trying to find how someone can come with that conclusion.
Okay.
And also I want
So
to ask if we can get the research. I don't know if we can get the research study, if it's published
So I
online.
won't send it because I have to take permission from the author.
Okay, ma'am.
She has agreed we can use for discussion. That's because we have actually taken permission from them that we can use for academic purpose. But if I need to send like that, we need to take permission from the author. Okay, so a research project submitted. It's what's the topic? Where's the topic, Jerry?
Topic is
perception. And you say pattern of use and determinant of family planning uptake among women of childbearing age in Ibadan North local government area. Okay, perception, pattern of use, determinants of family planning uptake among women of childbearing age in Ibadan North local government area. So, do you think this topic, cross-sectional study, it's okay to do a cross-sectional? Because that's what you are disagreeing with. You said you don't think that that's the appropriate method. Hello?
Hi.
Is he hearing me now?
Hello, I can hear you.
Okay, so is it okay to use a cross-sectional? Is it okay for it to be a cross-sectional descriptive study?
Yeah, I think it is okay, ma. I think it is okay, ma.
Okay, good. So that's why we're showing you the topic now. So, yeah, this person said, yes, now. She said, among women of childbearing age. So you can follow Faith on what's that? She's on LinkedIn. You can follow her on LinkedIn. And also, this student is a very serious student because she also won the best graduating student of University of Ibadan for 2024. So this person got lots of awards. So you can follow her on LinkedIn. She may be able to guide some of you.